Okay, that's it. Hey, Darcy,
We
how you
are
doing?
live. Hello.
How you doing?
Good. And how are you, Andy?
I am doing well. Yeah, thanks for joining me today.
Absolutely.
How's your day been?
Good. Just prepping up for this. 23 albums. That's a lot of Saxon over the past 7 days. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, I've 23 albums. I've listened to a lot of them this week. I think I'm going to need a break from Saxon for a little while.
Yeah, I was thinking that too. I probably, I was looking at my Saxon, live collection, which I'm pretty sure you have that vinyl horde box set too, don't you?
Yeah, I do. That's
But
there's a lot of stuff there that was released on CD first, wasn't it?
Yeah. Basically, it was like I think Eagles and Dragon or Eagles. The Eagle has landed, the original and 2 and 3 and whatever else. But I was thinking, you know what? They have probably more live material than Maiden, or at least the same amount.
Yeah, they've put them out quite regularly. I collect the Maiden live albums kind of religiously, but just pick up the Saxon ones less often. I mean, they're okay, but I think I don't know. I just think the quality is not always there. There's some good earlier shows that's out there, but
Definitely.
of course, I saw them live myself a few weeks ago. That was the third time.
I was thinking about that. And you waited 2 years for that, didn't you?
Just about, yeah. So it was originally supposed to be the 40th anniversary show, and then that got canned. That got postponed twice, and then they actually cancelled it. I got a refund, and then it was supposed to be the Carpe Diem tour, but hey Thomas. Yeah, it's supposed to be the Carpe Diem tour, but they love coming up and playing Scotland. So because they missed the 40th anniversary, they basically did most of the 40th anniversary set, and then just chucked a couple of songs off the new album on, which was actually pretty good. I thought that was always good to see those classics getting played.
What do you remember? What they played from the new album?
They played the title track, Carpe Diem. What else did they play? I think they might have played the Pilgrimage as well.
Okay.
I think so.
Yeah, I hope they get here to, somewhere close, North America somewhere. I would love them to come to Canada. I think the last time they were here was opening for Judas Priest, but I don't know if that was on the Canadian. The Canadian leg was Uriah Heep. That's who I ended up seeing open for Priest. Because Priest, how's it going there, Kevin? Priest is known for bringing out, a companion that is suitable on tour with them, not their son's band or whoever. And I do get that angle of it too. Don't get me wrong, but I much prefer, seeing Uriah Heep or Saxon open up for Priest or somebody like that. So, somebody old school. But I hope they make it here. I would love to see them. So
would you travel far to see Saxon, or are they
I
not
would
up there enough?
I would probably have to travel minimum 5 hours, possibly 10 hours, which I'd probably just end up flying. I don't know. You're familiar with Edmonton or Calgary in Alberta, Canada. Those are two of the biggest centers that are closest to me. And I mean closest as in 10 or 12 hours driving. Or I could probably drive to Winnipeg, Manitoba in about 5 or 6 hours, depending, where they play. And the other thing that is super iffy this time of year is your weather. So you could have a total whiteout and not be able to even travel because you can't see. And so I always keep that in mind because I don't want to risk driving in shitty conditions either. So
cool. Yeah. So it's all about the good opening band. So Diamond Head opened for Saxon on this tour, and that was great.
Perfect.
I've seen them quite a few times now, but they were great as well.
Yeah.
Really cool. So we are here today to go through each and every Saxon album and just pick out our maybe one or two favorite songs off each of the albums. We made a decision to go in reverse order because I think we both the 80s is probably our favorite period, as with most metal bands that have been going on for this long, and it's good to kind of just build up that that excitement up towards the end. I'm particularly interested to see how many songs that we have in common across these albums, or whether we are even poles apart.
Yes, and just so everybody knows, we have not shared those songs, so I do not know what Andy's are. I can speculate all I want, but hey, Jürgen, we did not talk about that. We just talked about the order. And kind of a little bit of background on this. Actually, Andy was at the Saxon show, and he literally messaged me during the show, "Hey, Mike," and said, "What's your favorite Saxon song, or what's one of them?" And I named one. I won't name it now. And then all of a sudden, that a video he hooked me up with a video of that song on his channel, and then we talked about. You know, he goes, "Would you like to do something like this?" And here we are tonight. I said, "Absolutely," and probably not something I love to do with somebody else. I don't need to do it on my own. I would love to do stuff like that with in this atmosphere. So definitely looking forward to this one. So I will stop talking so you can lead us on.
Okay, right. Well, let's jump in then. The most recent album, Carpe Diem, released this year, 2022. So my picks off this are the opening track, the title track, Carpe Diem, Seize the Day. Great way to kick off this album. In fact, I think with this album, when I first heard it, my initial reaction was, it's good, but it's not up to the last couple of albums. But the last few times I've listened to this, I'm putting this ahead of the previous two albums. It's just consistent all the way through. They're very, I don't think there's really any filler on there, if I'm honest. And the other one I've gone for is Dam Busters as well. You know, Saxon love their historic songs, or their industrial revolution songs, or their war songs as well. So Carpe Diem and Dam Busters are my two picks from this album.
Good choices. So you know, and because of COVID, I mean, this is the longest gap in this 40 plus career that we even had to wait for a Saxon album. I mean, it was probably already done in, 2020 for sure, but 4-year gap since Thunderbolt. And I agree with you. Initially, when I first listened to this the first couple times, I'm like, nothing really jumped right out at me in the beginning. But then I learned to appreciate the album, and I saw it as actually it's better than Thunderbolt, and whereas Thunderbolt was better than Battering Ram, it was just a perfect progression. And this album is more like this throughout instead of those peaks and valleys. So anyways, my picks, same as you on that album opener. Absolutely, you will see throughout this stream that Saxon is notorious for that title track and lead off opener. For the most part, I mean, I didn't pick them all. I don't think I did anyways. But my second pick is Age of Steam. I absolutely love the intro to that. And what you're going to see, especially with this album, I mean, there's maybe 2 songs that don't start off with a riff. These guys are, that's another theme that you'll see throughout Saxon's discography. They're just riff meisters. That's what they start their songs off. There's no big drum intro. I mean, in the case of this album and a couple others, there's those slow builders like Carpe Diem, where they have a little intro that's a build up, but then it's right into the riff, the main riff. But anyways, my second choice, Age of Steam, perfect song. And which one did you pick?
Dam Busters.
Dam Busters. That's a good song too. That's I was going through this album, and there's some heavy tunes on here. Like we won't, Supernova, super heavy. So they're maintaining what they've been doing since, the early 2000s, where they really heavied it up quite a bit. But yeah, that's my two choices: the title track, Carpe Diem, and Age of Steam.
Interestingly enough, we're already starting off with a slightly different opinion. So that was one of the albums, as I was listening through, I was trying to rank as I went along, and Age of Steam was actually the not a bad song by any means, but that was actually the lowest ranking that I had for a song of that album. So that's
okay. And I would say my lowest ranking on here would be I love Remember the Fallen. I get the whole COVID and that tribute, but that was lower, and the song All for One. That was probably my lowest.
All for One was quite low as well for me. So that's cool. We're allowed to like different things, though, aren't we?
Yeah.
And still be friends. That's
right.
Who'd have thought?
That's right. Okay. So you want me to go first this time?
Go for it.
Okay. All right. 2018's Thunderbolt. Sorry, it's kind of got a glare. Now, my choices on this one, and as I said, this was 4 years. And the one thing that I didn't say, and you and I didn't talk about, but that Carpe Diem album was pretty much made in 3 different places. The drum tracks were recorded in Germany. The guitars were in with Sneap. Where is that? Derbyshire? Am I pronouncing that right? Derbyshire.
Derbyshire.
Yeah, Derbyshire. Okay, sorry about that. I pronouncing that, but and then the vocals were done at Biff's barn. So anyways, this one was more of a team effort back in 18 pre-COVID. But as I was telling you, I think it was last night, I said, you know what? I do believe Carpe Diem is just a little touch up on Thunderbolt, but the good stuff on Thunderbolt is absolutely awesome. And my favorite tracks on Thunderbolt are the lead off. I'll go with Thunderbolt itself. There is a buildup called Olympus Rising right into Thunderbolt with a heavy killer guitar riff, and the chorus, the chorus for that song is awesome. I love it. And Saxon are also known for a couple kind of filler stuff like Roadie Song. That would be my lowest ranking one on here. And what I'm getting at is Carpe Diem didn't have that shit. It didn't have that throw-in song, whereas Thunderbolt did. But my second choice is Sons of Odin. Great intro, kind of a bassy build-up like Holy Diver, dun, 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 that type of thing. Love the song Sons of Odin. There's a couple more that I would choose on here too, but definitely I'm going to go with Thunderbolt and Sons of Odin on Thunderbolt. So another title track pick.
Right, just through a couple of
Hey, Paul.
And of course, Mike will no doubt try and put a downer on the Saxon affair, because he's not he's not a pure convert. He'll start talking about Biff's false teeth next. I guarantee.
Yeah, that's coming next. Okay.
And Jürgen, it's all about accept. But now,
Predator.
Before I go in, so Predator. I agree, it's a good song, but the who's it on? Who does the vocals on there, or joint vocals? It's the guy from Amon Amarth, isn't it?
Yeah, that's the guy. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't stand his vocals on this. It's a great song. In fact, when I saw them on this tour, Nibs Carter does the kind of death growls on it, and so much better, so much better. So Predator would have been higher, but I just don't like the sort of the. It's not a duet, really, is it? That makes it sound soft, no. But so yeah, Thunderbolt again, my number one, and I promise I'm not going to be choosing all the title tracks, although they do tend to be some of the better tracks on the album. But my second one on here, which kind of surprised me, because there are some great tracks like Sons of Odin and Secret of Flight I quite like, but Nosferatu I just love. It's it's not the fastest song on the album. It's not all out. It's just it's sort of mid-paced, but I just like it's quite heavy. I just find it catchy, but not super fast, and it's just a little bit different. It's not a song I would necessarily have expected them to have put out.
No, and I would that would definitely be on my at least top 4 songs on this album. That one, especially Secret of Flight, is a great track too. I really enjoy that one. And yeah, and I got the same feeling as you about Predator. I might even take Ice-T over that guy from Amon Amarth. I don't think it's a good mix. Neither is Ice-T and Megadeth. But anyways, yeah, Predator would be a hell of a good song, and Nibs would do a good job live for sure. All right.
Yep. So I'm up next. Well, that was a bit late. People talk about Age of Steam. We're beyond Age of Steam now. We are moving on to
great track though. Great track.
No, we're not going to be. Well, I'm not including the covers album. I don't really class that as a studio one. But if you had it in your list, Darcy, you are welcome to add that one in.
I didn't, and okay, we're going to answer that right now. I do have that. So of course it's all a covers album, but I'm going to pick one right now. I don't know. Shit, it's not great. I'll tell you, it's okay, but I would go with their cover of AC/DC's Problem Child. It's pretty good. But okay. No, I don't include covers or remakes in any ranking of my videos, anyways.
From a completist point of view, if I did see that album, but I saw it, I didn't want to buy it at full price. I'm not really a big covers fan, and but one day I'd get it. Maybe the urge to have everything on vinyl will overtake one day. It usually does.
Well, just wait on that. Don't be buying anything, because there'll be something coming your way soon. So we won't give anything away, will we?
Nope. I don't think it's all. Okay, cool. Right, so next up, we got that.
Yeah.
Battering Ram cool t-shirt. First time I saw Saxon live, I didn't get to see him in the 80s or in the other years in between, but jumped on the chance when they came to Glasgow. So Battering Ram, 21st studio album, 2015. I thought this was a great album when it came out. To be honest, I thought it was great to hear them get back to a heavy metal album, really. I'm going to do it again. I'm going to pick Battering Ram, the title track. Again, it's the first track on the album, and it's a great album opener. And then it goes into Devil's Footprint, and I love that song as well. But I can't make up my mind really between the Devil's Footprint and Top of the World. But there's some really good. A lot of I don't think there's too much filler on here, and there are no tracks that stand out as I think are not very good. And sometimes Saxon do have a lot of throwaway tracks. And there was about 4 or 5 here that I wrote down as sort of middle of the road in terms of this album, but not bad tracks at all. So yeah, Battering Ram, Devil's Footprint, maybe Top of the World, depending on what mood I'm in.
Okay, that yeah. I was this is the part of the where I was we haven't revisited a lot of these albums. Maybe I haven't in a while, but this is where I'm really curious of your picks, and maybe you're curious of my picks, because there's a like you said, there's a couple of kind of throwaway tracks, but there's some really good tracks. So lots of mid pace thrown in there, and that would probably be like Top of the World. It's got a little speed to it, but so you picked Battering Ram and Devil's Footprint?
Yeah.
Okay, not bad. Oh yeah, Kevin's got it. Definitely a Saxon completist, Kevin. So yeah, Battering Ram right here. And I got to follow suit with that lead off. The title track that leads off this album, it kind of just sets the pace. And we'll talk a little bit about track order and stuff later on some other albums, because there was some weird stuff that went on with some of these, and we'll talk about that later. But I love Battering Ram. This is the first time they used Sneap too, right? This is the start of their relationship with Andy Sneap, and you could tell because it was one of their heavier albums. I don't believe this was their heaviest album. I'll talk about that one later, but it is one of them. My second choice, I was flip-flopping, but I'm gonna have to go with Queen of Hearts. I really like that song. It's, it's got the riff. It's got a great chorus. That's what you'll see on a lot of these albums. But I was just really torn between the other song that I really like is called Destroyer. It's got a super mean sounding riff to that one. And just a great guitar tone. And you'll since what's his name now? I'm losing it. Doug came into Doug Scarrett came into the band. He's got a great tone too. They just such a solid band. And then I was thinking, how long some of these guys have been. Like Nibs has been in the band longer than any of the original guys that weren't there, and lots to think about. But to sum up this, definitely, if you don't check out any track except for the title track on here, Battering Ram is awesome. It's like a Priest Painkiller, maybe not quite as metallic or sounding, but super heavy. The drums, Nigel his drums always sound good to me. Yeah, and Queen of Hearts. I would go with Queen of Hearts.
Queen of Hearts, that's a great track. Yeah, that's a sort of mid-paced and heavy as well, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
It's not all like speed heavy metal. It's atmospheric, heavy, but mid-paced.
No, and when you said Top of the World, at first I thought, what? And then I'm like, you know what? I can hear it in my head. And believe me, folks, I don't know every one of these songs in my head. There's too many. But that one, I can hear it in my head because I just recently played Battering Ram. That's a great tune too. So I would definitely put that in my top, my top 4 or 5 songs off of Battering Ram for sure. Great artwork, great T-shirt. So that was the time before this time you saw them, right?
No. So Battering Ram, 2016. So I've seen them on the last 3 tours. So the recent one, which is the Carpe Diem 40th anniversary, and the Thunderbolt before that, and Battering Ram was the first time I'd seen them. Yeah.
Well, they do pretty well in the UK. Like, I mean, I was looking at their charting. They chart the most in the UK, and places like Sweden, they chart. They charted quite a bit in the US in the 80s and stuff, but you don't see them charting too high in the US and anywhere in Canada these days. But the UK, they must do pretty well on their tours.
Yeah, I was surprised by the makeup of the audience. Obviously, it was quite a senior age group, and believe it or not, I was even bringing the average age down a little bit compared to some of the people in there. But there were actually quite a few. At one point, Biff was asking how many people. We've been going for 40 whatever years. How many people weren't even born when we released our first album? And there was like loads of people in the audience with just kids. They could be kids in their 30s. That's they still wouldn't have been able to say they were born when that first album came out.
Well, yeah, and plus they've been going since 1975. I think for the first 3 years they weren't even known as Saxon. They were known as Son of a Bitch. And
I forgot about that.
Yeah. So, and of course the record company said, no, you got to change your name. You can't go out as Son of a Bitch. And maybe in this day and age they probably could. I don't know, or maybe not. Maybe it's worse this day and age. But they came up with they were known as Saxon from 1979 on. So yeah, I definitely there'd be some old school metal guys in that crowd, even older than I am. So I'm up next. What? Sacrifice?
Mm-hmm.
All right, 2013 Sacrifice. And you know what? Maybe this is the first one with Sneap. I bet you this is the first one with Sneap, because this is, yeah. Let me see. Let me double check here.
I'm not sure. I think it was
Yeah, Andy Sneap, producer. Yeah,
hey,
this
right.
is. Yeah, so Andy Sneap, this is the first time he did the full production and mixing for these guys.
No, it says it was produced by Biff, Peter Biff Byford, and but mixed and mastered by Andy Sneap.
Yeah, mixed and mastered. Yeah, he does all their mixing now for the past 4 albums. So, anyways, cool artwork. I'll always just throw in, because Andy was teasing me the other day about logos and shit, and but I love a good Saxon logo. I don't want them to mess it up. They did kind of mess it up on one of these albums, and we'll show you in a little bit. But great album, heavy, probably their heaviest, one of their heaviest of this period. And favorite tracks, well, there's a little interlude called, or a little builder upper called Procession, and then it boom right into the title track, which is Sacrifice. I absolutely love that song. I couldn't not pick it on here, and maybe the second song will be different on the second song, but my second favorite track on this album is called Wheels of Terror. Heavy, speedy track there, and you got one of those shit throw-in songs called Standing in a Queue, which is basically about standing in a frickin' line. So they're kind of stretching for lyrics there, but there's some good stuff on here. If I had to throw in one more, I'd probably go with Night of the Wolf. Great song, but my two choices, the title tracks, Sacrifice, and what did I say? Wheels of Terror off of Sacrifice.
Cool. Yeah, decent picks. I was looking at Night of the Wolf, actually, and that one I thought it's a decent song, but I just find it a little bit repetitive, and the ending that it just goes really sort of quiet. It's just not something I like in a song. I like a song to just kind of end on a high. That one kind of just peters out to not too much. So that's not one that kind of put me off. That one. It would have been a little bit higher, I think, if they'd had a little bit more of an interesting and exciting end. But I'm gonna join you on Sacrifice again, the title track. I wonder if they name the albums first, then come up with the songs, or whether they come up with a great song and think, right, I'm going to call the album that because that's the best song we've got. But I also Guardians of the Tomb, the one that ends the first album. I just think it's a great song. I think it's got a good chorus. I mean, a lot of the choruses from Saxon are fairly repetitive anyway, but it's a damn good tune. Nice pace to it.
Yeah, I can go with that too.
Warriors of the Road is quite good as well, but again, it's kind of, Saxon do a lot of songs about being in bands, being rockers, liking rocking, standing in a queue. They do like to have, they've got certain templates, haven't they? Industrial Revolution, the war, and being in a rock band, they seem to be their staples for if they need to write some songs.
Yeah, and then they throw in that little 1% just ridiculous shit song. Good choice. You couldn't help but check out the track Sacrifice. I mean, another heavy duty opening. Kind of just sets the pace for the whole album. I think they do that strategically, especially on these more modern albums, and probably that relationship with Sneap, which I think he does a good job with Saxon, and we'll get into. You're gonna start off with the call to arms soon, and definitely. I'll save my thoughts, but you go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say with Sneap, I think he's certainly modernized them, because Saxon, I think, have always been slightly behind the curve in terms of what's going on in the rest of the metal world, and Sacrifice is definitely definitely, it's a modern heavy metal album. It's not like you'd say classic Saxon sound. I mean, it's definitely Saxon. You know it's Saxon, but he kind of brought them up to date in terms of what modern heavy metal sounds like. Modern traditional heavy metal. Could you say that? You know what I mean? In terms of not, it's not thrash. It's not trying to be speed metal. It's not trying to be any other types of genre. It's modern day heavy metal, and a lot of bands are sounding like that. And a lot of bands sound like that because, let's face it, Andy Sneap's involved in a lot of those big bands. But and you mentioned earlier about there's a little bit in Battering Ram. There's a little bit Judas Priesty there, and I think that's no surprise really with Andy Sneap having a foot in both camps.
Yeah, you can definitely get that Priest vibe, even with the guitar tone and mostly that thundering drums. Yeah, definitely huge influence though. And I think he has been for at least, for me, probably 14 years or so that I've really known the Sneap name. So, and if it wasn't for him working with Priest quite a bit right now, he'd probably be even doing more work. So I don't know, at least it opened the door for a few other guys to help out some bands too. So
yeah, but then again, he's playing guitar for Judas Priest, so he's obviously enjoying that. I mean, you would.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. Now,
all right then.
I got to ask you quickly though: Are you fine with this modern production? But for as far as Saxon goes,
I think I've really enjoyed the last few albums. I've got to say, so I suppose yes. They all have something a little different from each other. It's not like they're releasing the same album each time. I mean, obviously the production's very similar, but at least there's some variation with the songs and the speed. I mean, there's a clear difference to me between Battering Ram, Thunderbolt, and Carpe Diem.
Absolutely, I agree.
Big albums in their own right.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Well, this is one of the Saxon albums that I am probably least familiar with. Apart from Carpe Diem, this was the last album I got to pick up because I was trying to find a copy on vinyl. This is 2011 it originally came out, and this is a 2017 repressing, 19th studio album. So it took me a long time to find this at a decent price. So it's one I haven't actually spanned too many times. But it's definitely, it seems to have a different pace to it. It's almost kind of like a back to basics Saxon. It doesn't, to me, sound like those last 3 or 4 that we're talking about in terms of it being the modern production heavy metal. But for me, the Afterburner was the track that I picked out as my favorite, and Mists of Avalon as well. Again, different enough from Afterburner, but there is also some filler on it. Call to Arms, actually, the title track is one title track that I didn't rate very highly at all, and especially the orchestral version that's stuck on at the end. And yes, 2 songs on here, Back in '79 and Surviving Against the Odds. More songs about Saxon singing about being in a band.
Yeah,
definitely a lot more filler on here for me. But yeah, Afterburner and Mists of Avalon are the 2 songs that I would tell someone to check out on this album.
Yeah, I agree with you here on the title track too. Just too slow paced. It's the opposite of Sacrifice or Battering Ram.
Absolutely, yeah.
I would also say, and then you got your shit dud song, Ballad of the Working Man, thrown in there at the end. Just before the orchestral version of Call to Arms, which was kind of unnecessary to me. But as far as favorites for me, the opening track, they probably should have called this album Hammer of the Gods, because that is one of my favorite tracks. And they kind of obviously went to, with the different title and a slower song, but I love Hammer of the Gods. You had mentioned Afterburner, which is probably the heaviest and fastest track on this album. But I went with Chasing the Bullet is the first song on the second side. kind of a mid-paced, and what you have here is a collaboration between Biff producing and Toby Jepson from what band is he from? One UK band. Toby Jepson. Shit, I forget what band he's from, but not a super metal guy compared to Sneap, and and I don't even know how much production work Toby's really done, but I think it's the only time they used Toby Jepson as a producer. I'm forgetting the band he was with. It's a one-word band. Are you looking it up?
Yeah, I was, because I did recognize the name, but I recognize the name for the band he's in at the moment, which is Wayward Sons. But he was in Little Angels.
Right. Little Angels. That's it. You're right. So anyways, yeah, the production is, like Andy said, this one just feels a little more. Thank you, Mike. This one just seems a little more scaled back. What came before this? Into the Labyrinth, which we'll talk about next. So yeah, definitely more almost like a Back to the Roots album, but not really getting there. It's kind of we don't know. It's kind of a we don't know what we're doing here with this album, because you have a track, you go from absolute way over here with the title track called Arms, and then you go way over here with a song like Afterburner, which is something that could kick off an album. You could have called this thing Afterburner, or like I said, Hammer of the Gods isn't even a super heavy track, but it is I don't know, I just love the riff, I love the chorus, and but yeah, definitely kind of a mixed bag of an album, isn't it?
It is. Chasing the Bullet, that one I got it like an AC/DC vibe to it. It seemed definitely very sort of hard rock and roll.
That is exactly the way that riff starts off, is AC/DC vibe. The chorus is a bit different, more Saxon orientated, but the guitar tone and stuff, yeah, there's actually AC/DC vibes in a couple of places on this album. But yeah, like I said, just definitely a mixed bag on that one. What are we up to next here? Into the Labyrinth?
Yep.
All right. Let me just get all right. So I'm up next. So we were both lucky enough to buy this this set called Eagles and Dragons, and I'll just hold up my box here. And I think we're both happy that we actually bought this. So this is kind of we're both holding it up. This holds all the albums from 1991 to 2009. There's 9 albums in this set. It is very well done by a demon / who does this? I wonder if that's a German company, Edel, or let me see. Edsel. Yeah, I don't Edsel. Anyways, great job on that. I'm really glad I picked up that set, because those albums are harder to find on an individual basis. But here's the first one I'll show from that set, and this is 2009's Into the Labyrinth. I don't know, this is honestly in this period from 91 to 09, there was a lots of gaps for me. Mostly to do with my time in my life, kids, and career, things like that. And I lost track of a lot of these. So getting that box set was actually, I'm happy with it, quite refreshing. And this is what do you say, 2009? But I'm gonna go with where did I wrote actually a couple down because I knew I wouldn't remember everything. Into the Labyrinth. My first choice is Live to Rock. And that's exactly what you touched on. Lots of those kind of songs on these albums of rocking, playing metal. But that one has kind of an AC/DC vibe for sure, too. I really like that song. And what was my other one? And I got to be honest, this was one of those albums it was tough to pick. Not that it's a terrible album, but there's a lot of just like this, but the bar is lower than Carpe Diem. Put it that way. It's not one of their best albums, but it's not shit either. But my second choice is track 6 called Slow Lane Blues. It's got a little bit of blues influence. I know that's in the title, but I just love I love the slow down pace of that song. So that's what I would go with. Live to Rock and Slow Lane Blues from Into the Labyrinth.
That's interesting picks, because we may well be, this may be the album that divides us then, because I had those two fairly low. I thought Live to Rock to me was kind of filler, but then so when I picked this up, this box set up, most of these albums I hadn't heard. I've had this box set for about 3 years now. Again, it was a period when I'd kind of fallen off with Saxon, so it was a great way to discover those albums. Though I wasn't hearing them when they first came out. I was hearing it a lot later, and having gone through a lot of them and hearing all these songs about another song about being in a rock band or what have you, I think I was perhaps a little fatigued when it came to this one as well. So I put that down as a little bit of a filler. And Slow Lane Blues isn't a bad song. It's too bluesy for my tastes. So I've gone with Hellcat.
I knew it. I knew you were going to pick that.
Solos are just perhaps slightly over the top. They really went for it, but it's kind of I do like a little bit of a gratuitous solo. It's chugging riffs. I think it's brilliant, and I actually like Demon Sweeney Todd as well. But overall, I thought this album had a little bit of it's a bit of a power metal vibe to it, but also a bit all over the place. A little bit like we were saying with Call to Arms, but a very, very completely different sound and production to Call to Arms. But again, I thought this one was up and down. Certainly the difference between things like Slow Lane Blues and Hellcat is it just pulls apart in terms of the style and the type of song. But it's a decent album.
Yeah, and and we'll talk about the next one soon, but I agree with you too that it's another kind of a mixed bag, but it just slides underneath the Call to Arms. Above it, but you nailed it with the production is way different. It's got it tries to be heavy over here, then down to a song like Slow Lane Blues, and maybe that's why that really appealed to me, because I thought that was kind of really well done for Saxon. They do throw those kind of songs in too every once in a while, but definitely not a shit album. Again, I believe they haven't made we'll talk about that later, but I totally knew you were going to pick Hellcat right off the bat. And we should mention that you know what, the soloing and stuff in here, I think it's always very tasteful, and just a couple over the tops, but definitely agree with you on Hellcat for sure.
I mean, both Paul Quinn and Doug Scarrett are absolutely fantastic. They are master craftsmen when it comes to the guitar. And I've never played guitar in my life, so maybe some people will look at it and tell me they're doing it all wrong, but they sound brilliant to me. I think they're great. They're great pairing.
All right, you're up.
Okay, 2007, 17th studio album, The Inner Sanctum. Now, we've got Nigel Glocker's back on drums for this one after a little bit of an absence. Listening to it this week, I have changed my mind on this album. Out of the box set, before this week, when I started listening to everything, I would have said this is my go-to album. This is my favorite one. It's certainly one of the heaviest, I think, in the box set. A little bit darker, but it's just I don't know. Others have jumped above it in terms of being the best. I think there's a little bit more filler on this album than I thought of before. Certainly what I consider to be filler on an album. But the songs that did stand out to me are Let Me Feel Your Power, Again, heavy. It's got lots of good solo in it from Paul and Doug, and Red Start Falling, which is it's a lot slower, but really sort of moody and atmospheric as well, and heavy with it.
No title track, eh?
No title track, yeah.
No. Yeah, we'll have to pick those out as we go. There's no title track. One of the any good choices. I'm going to be totally different from you on this one, but this is one of quite a few that they use Charlie Bauerfeind, which you guys out there would most notably his latest project. I don't know what he's working with now, but did he work with possibly Blind Guardian on their new album? But anyways, the newest Halloween album, that's who Halloween works with, is Charlie Bauerfeind. He's renowned producer, producer, engineer with a lot of power metal. So did you feel any real power metal vibes on this album?
I didn't. I got much more from Into the Labyrinth than this one.
Yeah.
I have to say.
Okay. Well, anyways, I will give you my choices. I guess I don't quite agree with you on the filler side of things. I think this one contains probably 80% really solid tracks, but I'm going to go with kind of a cliche choice, but I've got To Rock to Stay Alive. It's a good song. I love it. Great riff. It's not super metal sounding. It's more just hard rock. One of those Saxon. We love to play rock and roll songs, and but there's some songs on here I could easily pick. Like I don't even mind the If I Was You, when they did that documentary with that guy. I watched that whole documentary about trying to get Saxon back on track and all this. I don't know who the guy was, but it was really good and very
Harvey Weinstock.
Weinstock.
Yeah,
Maybe.
he was like a business troubleshooter, and he did a series. He'd go into companies that were failing and turn them around, and Saxon was an interesting project. So yeah, that's a great documentary.
But yeah, that was a great documentary. And but anyways, I love I've Got to Rock to Stay Alive, and my second choice is Ashes to Ashes. It's a slow plotter, great riff, repetitive chorus that fits. Ashes to ashes, dust to dust, stuff like that. Mike saw that documentary too, and that documentary, if you haven't seen it, it's a real eye opener to how tough this business is for bands like Saxon. And Saxon are just one of those bands that I personally, they are in the Iron Maiden, Judas Priest category for me personally. But I do understand that they're still on the outside looking in. They don't have, even Judas Priest doesn't have the Iron Maiden, notoriety, things like that. But tough. It's got to be tough sledding to, choose a life like they have. And, but they do deserve all the success they get, in my opinion. But so getting back to this, we picked I've Got to Rock to Stay Alive and Ashes to Ashes.
Okay. Actually, going back to that documentary, what I always find a little bit ironic, I guess, is that when Harvey Weinstein was brought in, he was trying to tell them some home truths. He was trying to say that you're plodding along, you haven't changed your image, you've still got the same long hair, and some of you haven't got the hair to have long hair. And he tried to change their image. He changed their image, and he dressed Biff up in that big sort of almost like military long coat. And the thing is, though, Biff is still wearing that or a variation of that to this day. It's almost like he liked that new image, but still 20 plus years later, he's still wearing the same outfit. So I think he's pretty much stuck in his ways, what have you.
He is. Even in that documentary, he was the most defensive person on that documentary. Biff was very resistant to any type of suggestion, anything like that. But yeah, that long military coat, he wears it in every show. But
I mean, you get
yeah.
you get a lot of bands that change their image every few years to try and modernize and refresh or whatever, but not Saxon. That's just who they are.
Well, Saxon definitely had their ups and downs in the image department, and we'll get to some of those albums too shortly. So, am I starting this one?
Yep.
Okay. What is this? We got 2004's Lionheart. I've done a Saxon ranking, but I haven't updated it. Maybe we'll have to do that. We'll have to do that down the line. But what was I going to say? This is one of my more modern favorite Saxon albums. And I don't know where you stand on this one, Andy, but this is definitely one of Saxon's heaviest, if not one of the very heaviest overall albums throughout the whole thing. And I'm going to go with, I think you might be on the same track as me on this one. If I'm betting, we'll see. But I'm going to go with the leadoff track, Witchfinder General. Super heavy, great leadoff track. I think if it wasn't called Witchfinder General, they would have maybe used that. Or what I'm saying is they probably could have used my second choice as the album opener too, which is the title track, Lionheart. Love that song. It's maybe a touch, quite not as heavy as Witchfinder General, but the chorus is so good in Lionheart. It's got a lot of building moments in it, and then right into the chorus. And again, riff orientated throughout. Those are my two choices, Witchfinder General and Lionheart. Definitely have a couple runner-ups that I can mention after you go with yours.
Witchfinder General was actually a close runner-up for me. So you weren't too far away thinking that would be high up on my list as well. But the two that did it for me, English Man of War, that to me is Saxon in full-on heavy metal mode. Probably one of the most heavy metal songs that they've done. Certainly in this kind of era, not in the 80s era, because they weren't this sort of band then. They've moved on since then. But also, I mean, To Live by the Sword was actually the second choice for me. It's really, really chuggy, and Biff just lets himself go. He's up there with the vocals. He's really lets the pipes open, and probably scares lots of dogs in the local vicinity. But I just love it because it does. It just seems that he's not being safe. It's not the standard Biff. It's just way up there in terms of the voice. But
a lot of great choices on that one.
Yeah, this is actually one that it was. I didn't write anything down that was particularly filler. Maybe Jack Tars, but that's just like a little ditty. That's it's not really a song. It's the intro to English Man of War. In fact, they do that a lot. They have a lot of sort of intros or 20, 30-second intro songs, and then they list them as a track on the album. So you think you're getting 11 songs on this album, but you're not really. You're only getting 10.
If I threw one more in there, Beyond the Grave, great track, but I just go back right to that album opener, Witchfinder General. It's got a kind of a distorted bass intro. Probably Nibs has a pedal effect on his bass, and then right into this heavy, fast riff with double bass drum pounding. Just kind of a real epic feel opener. Not epic in the sense of Crusader epic. It just pumps you up right from the start. So that's what I love about that track. And then the title track is fantastic, Lionheart. So that's another Charlie Bauerfeind produced album. So I think they worked with him for, we'll have to check.
There's a lot of them, isn't there? Yeah.
You're up next.
I am. I'm just checking to see who did this one. So
Biff produced it.
Yeah, so I was looking on the inner sleeve, it's on the outside. Yes, so 2001, 15th studio album. Again, one that I wasn't actually that familiar with. It's not a cover that kind of grabs me and thinks I want to listen to that one. It even annoys me that the logo is kind of so far down, which is a stupid thing to annoy me on an album because it's nothing to do with the music. But it's like, why is it down there? Put it up there at the top. But I'm going back to choosing title tracks. Killing Ground is an awesome way to kick off this album. Okay, there's an intro first again, which again is kind of listed as a track, but Killing Ground to me is the opening track, and Dragon's Lair is the other one, the last track off side one that I went for, and actually there's a cover on here as well, isn't there? Court of the Crimson King, which I think they do a good job of. It's not a song I'm actually that familiar with. I don't know too much about King Crimson stuff, but I like the cover that they did on that. I thought it was quite good.
Actually, that cover song kind of reminded me of that one off of Biff's solo album that he did. What was that called? It was a popular song too. I forget. I'll grab it in a minute. But yeah, the cover, and I think I possibly could explain about this cover why the logo's down is because originally the original cover artwork for this had some sort of border like this.
Oh, right.
All around it. So I think basically for whatever reason they took that out of here. But honestly, it's a shit cover anyways. It's one of the worst. If I was ranking their album covers, it would be down there. The only thing that saves it for me is I love black with yellow, and I've always loved the Saxon logo. But as far as songs, you absolutely picked the same two, Killing Ground. After that intro, right into that song, it is awesome. Heavy. Is this? No, I was going to say this is the first one with Doug, but it's not the first one with Doug. But great track, and I love Dragon's Lair. And maybe we could, let's see if we could throw one in there as a third one to the tiebreaker. I would probably go with shit. And this is one of those albums where I'll be honest with you, I struggled. Besides the two I've already named, there wasn't a third track that just super jumped out at me. You know what I mean? No, I don't know. How about you? Shit, I don't know. But anyways, if you guys don't know this album, check out Killing Ground and Dragon's Lair, endorsed by Andy and myself.
What was you just? So I was reading through some of the comments to pick out, and I completely lost track of what you were saying.
I was just saying, if you had to pick a third off this album, I would be hard pressed. I don't know.
Mine was probably Deeds of Glory, but I didn't make a note on it, and I'm struggling to actually remember what that song is like now.
Yeah.
I know that Shadows on the Wall was my least favorite because the vocals were all distorted, and that really just annoyed me.
I would say for me, maybe Running for the Border. It's kind of like sounds a bit like Dam Busters off the newest album, but not quite as good as Dam Busters. But yeah, I would probably go with Running for the Border. But Killing Ground, if you had to pick one song off this album, it would be the title track. It's awesome.
I just looked up the original cover, and even though it's still one of the worst Saxon covers, it looks so much better with the border on. The border kind of goes there, cuts, and comes around, and is this sort of like Celtic art around here. But it looks so much better when it's on there. This looks like they just forgot it.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm up next.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so what are we on here? 1999's Metalhead, and not the best cover, but not the worst either. They kind of fucked up a bit on the logo on this one. It's not great, but I think overall is a pretty good album. It's one of one of their heavier albums, or at least it gives you that impression that it's one of their heavier albums, even with the title track. And this time I am not going with the title track. My two favorite songs, I'm going to go with Conquistador, very heavy track. Again, tons of riffage throughout this whole album. Really good, great solos. Doug and Paul are awesome at trading off with their solos, and they're very similar guitar players with their soloing and stuff. And like I said before, very tasteful. I don't think there's a lot of tracks that sound like the solo doesn't belong. It feels like it belongs all the time. And my favorite track on this album, and always has been, is the closing track called Sea of Life. It's awesome. Go check that song out. It's kind of like a slow builder to this really cool chorus, back down. That song has a lot of kind of peaks and valleys. It's not a super fast song, but it's heavy in the right places. But Sea of Life, definitely, that would be my first choice on this album off of Metalhead. So I'm curious to see what you're going to pick.
So I agree on the logo. The logo almost looks like they've got a school kid to try and draw it and then used it rather than from memory of what the Saxon logo is supposed to look like. I do actually like the cover though. I like the detail. If you sort of look, okay, the main figure is what attracts your eye, but in the background, just the sort of alien figures and everything that's going on with it. It's an interesting cover. Conquistador, easy for me to say, actually was my third choice. Again, love it. Galloping riffs, catchy chorus, great song. Sea of Life was my second choice. I agree. It's slower, but it's really it's an epic song. It's got such it's got a lot to it. I just think it's great. But my favorite was actually one that I think is I was just right in the mood when I heard it in this last week, and that was All Guns Blazing. It's ball to the wall, all out, just rips, and that really made me stand up and think, okay, what's that song called? So I mentioned earlier on that certainly this period, I look at the album covers and I think, right, I know that I like this album, but I struggle, and I know there are songs that I like, but I struggle to remember the names of the songs. So this week has really been me about listening to the albums, but as I was going through, making sure that I was taking note of the names as I was listening to. So All Guns Blazing.
Oh, and Biff rips on that song. He lets her fly on All Guns Blazing too. Very, very speedy track. Great second side opening song. I agree on that one too. And I would, if I had to throw another one in there, I'd probably go with the title track. I know it's a cliche, metalhead, but it's got that little tiny, like you said, 20-second intro into Metalhead. It starts off kind of slow with these grinding guitars, and then right into this quite a heavy track, actually.
That was quite high for me as well. Again, so there's a lot of songs I listening to so many albums in such a short space of time and realizing how many songs there were about heavy metal, being a rock band, being a rocker, standing in a queue for a rock show, just all that stuff. I was getting a little bit burned out on hearing about songs about rockers, which these were released every few years, so there was that gap between them when they came out. But I was binging this week, and and some of those did stand out. But Metalhead was pretty high up on my list as well.
Yeah, okay. They were cranking out albums every 2 years. So, what do you got next?
So, 1997. Unleash the Beast. I actually think out of this box set that this is probably one of the worst cover reproductions, because I don't know about yours, but it's really blurry if you look up close.
Well, it's blown up. It's not good. You're right. It's actually, compared to the original, or at least the CD one. I don't have the CD, but it's blown up and it's too blurry.
Yeah, I mean, whereas Killing Brown was a shit cover, this is a fantastic cover. It's just this version doesn't do it justice. I mean, how could you not Demon Gargoyles? But Unleash the Beast, 13th studio album. Terminal Velocity was my number one because Biff's vocals really reminded me of sort of early 80s Saxon. I just thought that was a real sort of blast for the past. And Circle of Light as well, I thought was a pretty good track as well. But again, I didn't write anything down. I'm actually struggling to remember how that one goes, if I'm honest. Again, it's an album. It's one of the albums from the box that I haven't spent a massive amount of time with. So it's going to have to be revisited again.
Yeah, definitely agree on the cover reproduction. Not great. 1997. So this is the first full album with Doug Skerritt. This is his this is his introduction to Saxon, and I would say coming off of the albums that we'll talk about here in a few minutes is one of their heaviest to date too. I think he definitely added some of the heavy element, and Nibs did too, and we'll tell you when he joined and stuff. But song wise, I'm gonna go with the title track "Unleash the Beast," which is actually one of their heaviest album openers of all. It's just as heavy as Battering Ram. It's just as heavy as actually way heavier than Thunderbolt. I love it. It is like I said, it's one of their heaviest intro songs to any of their albums. And then my second choice would be The Thin Red Line, which is kind of like a war type of song. So there's lots of songs with those type of historical lyrics, and with Saxon, especially Biff's writing is generally spot on for the most part. Yeah, you get those duds in there once in a while, but the marching intro of The Thin Red Line, and then it's got this bass part. It's boom, boom, boom. Like it's a kind of a builder. And the chorus is really good. So check out The Thin Red Line, or my other favorite, Unleash the Beast. And then there's definitely there's some fillers in here. But overall, not a bad album. And like I said, first with Doug on.
Red Line kind of a slower song, or am I thinking maybe right at the end of the album where he just kind of the Thin Red Line, and
it would be
that one didn't grip me, and I'm remembering that one now, and I remember it was a little bit sort of slower, moody.
It's got a kind of a bit of a bass opening with some kind of quirky guitar parts, like kind of dun dun dun. I can't hum it or anything. It's not that embedded in my brain, but definitely I don't know, kind of again, it's not a straight speed song by any means. It's just got kind of some peaks and valleys, but great tune off of Unleash the Beast. But what was that? That was 1997. So what was going on in metal in 97? You know, if you remember albums that came out those years, like what do we have? We had Reload came out that year. What else? Cryptic Writings from Megadeth. Priest came out with did they come out with Juggulator that year? So I don't know. I thought Saxon, I thought they did really well in those wilderness years, we'll call them. But they had no recognition. Saxon weren't even on anybody's radar in 1997, to be honest with you. And like you, on a few of these albums, I caught up on them later, and I never even owned some of these prior to owning this box set. So I had a couple, but not a lot. So always been a huge Saxon fan, but it's not a band that I never kept up on every release, and I wish I did, because some of that original shit is worth some money for sure. So you're next?
Nope, you are.
Oh, am I? Okay. Yeah, because you went Unleash the Beast. Okay. Dogs of War, 1995. I guess, you know what, we should mention that Paul Gregory does so much of this artwork. He even did, well, actually most of these albums. But he does some awesome artwork. He even did the artwork on the cover for Eagles and Dragons, that box set there. But this is the first one, or sorry, the last album to kind of feature Graham Oliver. He's on here a little bit. But actually, some of the guitar work was also done by one of the producers, Rainer Hansel. He actually did some of the soloing and a little bit of guitar parts because Graham Oliver was on his way out, one of the original members of Saxon. And then, of course, we know Doug entered the band on the following album, Unleash the Beast. But favorite tracks on here are Demolition Alley. That is my first choice. And kind of an out there pick, but I love this song, the closer. It is called Yesterday Is Gone. It's, I don't know, it's just a different Saxon. It's kind of I don't know, not sleazy in any way, but I don't know how to describe Yesterday Is Gone. It's a slower track. It's not super heavy, but Biff's vocals are so awesome in there. The lyrics are cool, but yeah. So, and I would say Dogs of War is a decent pick too, if anyone is going to pick that. But I would go Demolition Alley and Yesterday Is Gone from Dogs of War.
I picked Dogs of War. If anyone was going to do it, it was going to be me. Yeah, love that. I think it's a worthy title track for the album. So Yesterday's Gone. That's actually that's quite a deep cut on this one. It's pretty decent song. Well, yeah, I enjoyed that one a lot. But my second choice, so I've gone for the second track off the first side as well, was Burning Wheels. I just think it's a great heavy metal song. Yeah. Plenty of chugging Saxon riffs. You know, Saxon do like their riffs, and some nice soloing as well. But also the Great White Buffalo. Again, I like that one as well. Lots of different. It sort of ebbs and flows throughout, but it's a bit of a Saxon heavy metal epic for me.
Yeah, definitely a popular song on the album, Great White Buffalo. But I would say the ebbs and flows, I would say in the flow department, it lacked in the flow department for me, but still a good track. But that's probably why I didn't pick it. But I don't know, maybe after write down, check out Yesterday Is Gone again. I don't know. There's something about it that just, I don't know. It's groovy. That would be kind of a sum it up. It's just a groovy song. And I don't mean in a heavy groovy way. I just mean in a kind of a blues tinge, not overly though on the blues, because I'm not a big blues guy. But yeah, Yesterday's Gone. But yeah, great choice. You picked, what did you say? Burning Wheels?
Burning Wheels, yeah.
Yeah, that's a good choice too. I would go with that too, but the title track's great. Yeah, what do we got next? Who is up next?
Well, probably one of my least favorite Saxon albums, but there are still some good songs on here. But Forever Free from 1992, their 11th album, and as a result, I'm not massively familiar with it because it's not one that I particularly want to go and listen to when I listen to Saxon. They've mostly messed with the logo there, so I'm sure that is scratching your itch with your OCD.
I've lost sleep, man. I've lost so much sleep over that logo.
I mean, they went and put the S on it because they knew the S was important. They could have just put it here instead.
Yeah, I don't know. It seems like they're building some sort of tattoo on there or something.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure what was going on. But Night Hunter was probably my favorite track on here. Very up tempo, and I kind of like Biff. He's put a little bit of a snarl into the vocals there, makes it a little bit sort of dirty sounding as well. And I was struggling really for the second one, but I thought Forever Free sounded like a song that potentially could have been on something like Strong Arm of the Law. It was an early '80s feel to it, a little bit back to their heyday. But yeah, I struggle with this album. Nothing particularly stands out as fantastic for me.
Yeah, no, fair enough. I'm not a big fan of the cover. Actually, there's an alternate cover version of this with I think some sort of figure on a motorcycle or something, like kind of Forever Free, that biker atmosphere feel. Have you ever seen that cover?
I don't think I have, no.
Actually, I remember watching somebody's video that has a copy of that with the alternate cover. I don't even know who put it out, but you should look it up though. It's a little bit comic bookish, for lack of a better word. But I don't mind this album. It's I don't know. There is definitely some filler in here, but I would go with, and I like your choice, Forever Free. That would be definitely in my top 4 on this album. But I went with the Night Hunter, same as you, heavy track. Yeah, Biff sounds awesome on there. Right into the chorus, Night Hunter. It's short, snappy, sounds great. But I didn't really struggle for a second because I love the second track, Hole in the Sky. The chorus is so good. I just love that song. I don't know if you remember it well enough to remember.
Yeah,
it.
so
Hole in the Sky.
Hole in the Sky, the lyrics kind of, it's not that they annoyed me, and it's for petty reasons, because it's obviously about the ozone layer, and that was like a massive topic back in the early 90s. And it's almost like Saxon are trying to be topical. They're trying to be, hey, everybody, we care about the environment, and I don't know, it just felt a bit too cheesy for me.
I didn't mind it. I like, and it, the chorus is very repetitive. It's like, there's a hole in the sky, and but I don't know. It just it fits. It's a great track. I do like it. Probably if I had to throw one more in there, I would go with Iron Wheels, which is kind of one of those, Age of, not comparable to Age of Steam, but it's lyrically in that Biff historical
Industrial Revolution Biff.
Yeah,
he
that throwback tribute to the good old days, or the good old hard days, whatever you want to say. But yeah, in this cover, it's one of the worst, to be honest with you. But we both agree on Night Hunter. Great track if you guys want to go check that one out.
And Just Want to Make Love to You. I didn't realize it was a cover originally.
Yeah, that's a cover song. Yeah,
but
not a great song either.
Willie Dixon, that it's a cover of, actually died in '92, so that's probably why they decided to put it on it. But the lyrics are all different. It's I went away and listened to it on YouTube, and it's the original's longer, and it has more many more different verses and slightly different lyrics. So it's obviously a tribute to Willie Dixon, very bluesy, but
it's a shit cover.
It's not bad. It's not a bad cover considering it's a completely different take on the original.
Yeah, I just don't like it personally. I don't. To be honest, in the beginning, I didn't even know it was a cover song until I kind of discovered it was, and I'm like, this is just not that good. That's kind of the vibe I got from that one. So I'm up next.
Yep.
All right. We got Solid Ball of Rock from 1991. Another not so great cover. We got the Saxon logo basically on a rock looking wall type of thing with here is their logo right here. So this is the first one. This is when Nibs Carter came into the band, took over for, at that point, he didn't take over for Steve Dawson. That still was a ways away. I think he took over for Paul Johnson, was on bass on Destiny, and I think that's the only one he really, that period. But Nibs Carter was kind of I think was a real shot in the arm for Saxon. They rejuvenated them. Yes, this period from 91 to 2009 plus was kind of that, like I said, the wilderness years. Saxon was kind of forgotten, but Nibs was definitely a nice shot in the arm. Favorite tracks: Altar of the Gods would be my first choice, and there's quite a few choices, but there is some shit on here. I'll tell you, there is a track called Bavarian Beaver on here, which is that's an instrumental. It's a shitty instrumental that goes into the last song called Crash Dive, which I personally think's not great. But second choice would be Baptism of Fire, and the solo in that song, awesome. It is one of the perfect solos that I can remember from all these 23 albums. But so what did I pick? I picked Altar of the Gods and Baptism of Fire from Solid Ball of Rock.
So for the first time, we have a solid match. I picked those two in the same order as well. And they're both Nibs Carter's songs. In fact, he wrote, I think, 5 of these tracks outright and co-wrote 3 others. I mean, you mentioned Shot in an Arm. That's bringing somebody into the band, and then they basically are involved in just about every song on the album. I even forgive him for Bavarian Beaver because he was so instrumental in putting this album together. Let him have his bass solo. Let him have his, hey, I'm Nibs. I've just joined Saxon. This is what I can do. It's, if it was not on the album, I wouldn't miss it, but I'll forgive him for that. But yes, Altar of the Gods, banging heavy metal tune, and then Baptism of Fire. Yes, those two absolutely brilliant. The song I just can't get enough. I don't know if you've read the lyrics to that one, but is that a song about masturbation, or have I completely just missed the context of that song because it's terrible lyrics?
Oh, I wouldn't know about things like that, Andy. I'm just I think I think it's about tossing one off for sure.
It's just shocking. It is just bad. But there we go. But yeah, I think this is a actually pretty damn decent album. Certainly after some of the stuff that came before it.
Yeah, but you know what? On this album, if anybody out there wants to throw it on, and the first track, Solid Ball of Rock, you almost get kind of a 80s Autograph feel to the start of this album because it's very pop, not pop, but very glammy type of metal start, because it's got this almost I don't even know if they're electronic drums. I don't think they are, but Solid Ball of Rock starts off pretty weird. It kind of gets you worried, but then it settles right in. That's actually a great track too. But
it is.
I think Nibs has been a real breath of fresh air to this band. I mean, he has worked with Biff. Any of the heavy tracks on Biff's solo album were co-written with Nibs too. So yeah, but good choices. And you said that's the first time. Well, we also agreed on Killing Ground. We both had Killing Ground, and so we got 2 solid agreements, and I think there might be a few more coming up here. But although some of those early albums are going to have many choices on some of those albums, but are you up? What do we got next?
I am, yeah.
Okay.
It's my destiny. Boom. 1988. So yeah, we've got, you mentioned Paul Johnson earlier on. I think this was his only album, wasn't it? And Nigel Durham on drums as well. I think the fact that EMI dropped Saxon after this album pretty much sums it up. It's a disappointing album for me. In fact, I think Durham and Johnson were sacked during the tour of this one. That's when Nibs and Nigel Glocker came back. I don't know. I don't like it much at all. It's Saxon with keyboards, and I'm not a fan of 80s keyboard heavy metal. Red Alert, was the song that I put first because it's the most Saxon sounding song on the album, and that's really the best I can do for it. And For Whom the Bells Toll as well were the two that I picked up. Maybe Ride Like the Wind, but I don't know. It's just not an album I can get on with. Certainly with that logo. Well, it's not even a logo. That's just
no.
Saxon.
It's a shit cover. The cover is shit. Yeah, and you nailed it though, because after that they fought to stay on any label. And that is the problem with many bands, that midpoint where they're this label, that label, and then we're, for a company like BMG to be able to swoop in and gather all of this to make a box set or get the rights to these is awesome. I'm happy it happened, but I'm not happy this album happened. It will still remain my even if I do a re-ranking where I include Carpe Diem, this will still be my worst album. What did Mike just say? Oh shit, sorry.
They totally own that Christopher Cross song.
Okay, Mike, you nailed it. Absolutely, I agree, because that is my favorite track on here, and it's too bad it's a cover song, because Saxon don't have a lot of cover songs on their albums, but that is one of the highlights on this album for me. Ride Like the Wind, and I would say, I'm going to pick a corny track, but it kind of sums up that 80s kind of glammy sound. It's a track called I Can't Wait Anymore. They might even have done a video for that one if I remember correctly, but I think that might even be the period where they were making Paul Quinn wear a wig, because he obvious wig too. Okay, I'm talking same wig as like Kevin DeBrow wore in Quiet Riot in the late 80s too, around the whatever album came after Condition Critical. Just a goofy looking wig, dressing them up stupid, really kind of glammy type of videos, which not a shot at glam by any means, but it just did not work for Saxon. And I'm with you, man. This is a tough album to even, album to even get through. There's not a lot of strength on this one.
When an album, when you say like Ride Like the Wind is a decent song, I completely forgot it was a cover, to be honest with you.
Yeah, Christopher Cross cover.
But the songs that I remember most are the SOS is an abomination for us. Way too many keyboards. Song for Emma is an 80s keyboard offensive. It's 80s sounding. It's not just keyboards. It's very 80s keyboards. We Are Strong, to me, sounds like they're trying to be 80s Van Halen in the sound. It's just I don't know. It's just it just doesn't really do much for me at all. I say I was struggling to really pick out, but Red Alert was the one that sounded most like a Saxon.
Yeah, no, I was thinking, when people say, "Oh, so and so's album was my intro," man, if Destiny was I think it was Mike's. Mike, was that your intro to Saxon, or one of the first ones you heard? I think it was, but I would be like turned off immediately, like, fuck Saxon, man, never again. Fortunately we discovered some great albums, but I wouldn't point to anybody in this direction.
Yeah. I expect Destiny to be in Mike's cassette collection. I think it would fit right in.
It probably is in there. All right. So you picked Destiny, so I'm up next?
Mm-hmm.
All right. This is... I didn't put notes for every one of these, but I will... I think I'm good. So Rock the Nations is 1986. Sorry about the glare on there. I love this album artwork. It's a Paul Gregory piece with all the, all the flags from different countries, all the metal allegiance has gathered, and the eagle is in the background. So pretty cool there. This is the one where Paul Johnson is credited for bass, but I think Biff did all the bass parts on this
Yeah,
one,
he did.
if I remember correctly. So we got 4/5 of the original lineup. Well, not the original, but I would call them the classic lineup.
Yeah.
All right. Did I make a note on this one? I don't think I did. But anyways, my favorite, Rock the Nations, the leadoff track. I do like that one. I personally think this is not a great Saxon album. Put it that way. This is definitely lower in my ranking, and I struggled for two songs that really popped out at me, but I'm gonna go with Rock the Nations, and again, there's one of those stupid songs on here. The song is called Party Till You Puke. It's just like that's like not necessary. Get that off of there. Just go without it.
That is a B-side to a single. That's like when Iron Maiden do things like
like Sheriff of Huddersfield.
Message to Harry, that kind of thing. That's a B-side. That should never be anywhere near an album. That's horrendous.
No,
and it's got Elton John on it. He should never be anywhere near a metal album.
That's a fucking B-side to the B-side to the B-side. Yes. That's what that is. My second choice is Wait for the Night. Kind of a corny mid 80s. This is 86, so you got some, I wouldn't want to compare it to a song like Shot in the Dark by Ozzy, because that song absolutely kills this song, but that would be my second choice. So I'll go with Rock the Nations and Waiting for the Night.
Okay, yeah, I agree with you on Rock the Nations, and I agree it's also not a very good album. They were struggling, I think, at this stage. But my second choice was Battle Cry. I mean, that's a pretty decent song on the album.
Yeah.
Northern Lady's not too bad, but that actually has Elton John on it as well.
Yeah,
if I remember.
Yeah, it does.
On it. Yeah, but again, we came here to rock. Another song about rocking. There's so many songs about rocking.
Yeah, there's a lot of rocking on this one.
But yeah, Party Till You Puke, no, pretty bad album. So all my albums that I'm showing now from the 80s periods, they're all my OGs. So I managed to find decent copies over the last few years or so before anything 80s started going up to ridiculous prices. But yeah, decent cover, but not a decent album.
Yeah, no, I know you're. I'm more of a reissues guy. I have, but out of OGs, I have actually got a nice little bit of a chunk of Saxon ones before they went up to ridiculous prices. So the ones that I will show you they're only in the $15 to $20 range, Canadian. So there's nothing wrong with that price. All right.
Yeah, I mean, they're very much a band that I don't double up on Saxon. I have no studio albums on CD from Saxon. Everything's just vinyl collection, and I wanted to get as much as I could on vinyl, but I've got a couple of live albums and things on CD, but I don't need to get. Whereas Maiden, I've got the OGs and I've got the reissues and maybe another reissue as well. With Saxon, I'm good with just having it.
Yeah, no, the majority of my Saxon collection is vinyl with mixture of reissues and a few OGs, but I would pick up the OGs if I see them. I wouldn't pass them up if they're in decent condition. And the problem, though, and you know it, a lot of these guys are starting to work on with Discog prices, and they're not really pricing things to actually sell. They're pricing them to sit there, and that pisses me off. But anyways, that's a whole other video. All right, where are we? We are on 1985's Innocence is No Excuse. And I've said this in many videos back in the day, where a band could peel off an album every year or at least every second year. But for Saxon, they had a run of 4 years in a row and some got shitty, like Rock the Nations and Destiny. But Innocence is No Excuse is it's an underrated Saxon album in my opinion. I do like this album, and my choices for favorite tracks are what were they? Shit, now I can hardly even remember. Rock and Roll Gypsy for sure. I believe that was even a single. This is I'm going to tell you this album is kind of like this. I don't know if you would agree, Andy, with there's not too many big high points on this, but it's not really a low point album either. There's some low points, but it's more of a flatliner to me. But I'm going with Rock and Roll Gypsy and Back on the Streets. That's my two choices for this one.
Whereas I don't know, I don't think it is necessarily underrated, but I don't actually rate it that highly either, to be honest.
Yeah.
Okay. To me, this is better than Destiny, but not much. I've even always hated the cover, just the just even things like the water droplets, just because it doesn't look real. It doesn't look. I don't know. They don't even think they had Photoshop back then. It's probably painted on. But I don't like the cover. To me, this was Saxon seeing what Def Leppard had done and trying to be a bit more melodic, trying to be a bit more like Def Leppard to try and break maybe the American market. It's their first album on EMI, so maybe a big label was pushing them to be a bit more commercial than they had been on Carrera, however that's pronounced. I think the last few songs are good. So my favourites on here are, well, even though this is actually off the first side, is Devil Rides Out. I think it's got some good heavy riffs. It's less of the pop metal fluff that's on there, but there's still some on it. And Everybody's Up. It's another song about rocking and being rockers, but it's a catchy song. And Rock and Roll Gypsy was high up as well. I think I got the 12-inch single for that one as well. But I know what you mean. I don't think it does kind of it is fairly steady throughout, but I think that steady line is down here rather than it being a steady line all the way up there. Not one again that I would gravitate towards.
What about what do you like? Broken Heroes? That's it. Where are they now? And then it goes into the chorus. It's not a bad song, but it's kind of a mixed bag to that one too. But yeah, no, you make a good point. It's not definitely.
It's just the sound. It's just the sound of the album and where they were going. It just doesn't resonate with me. It's not what I wanted to hear from Saxon. I know a lot of bands around '85 were starting to bring in more of that electronic sound, keyboards. It was the fashion, and I think this was Saxon trying to do it. I don't think Saxon have ever been an innovative band. They've always kind of tried to follow the trends and try and copy what others are doing, and I just don't think they did a fantastic job of it on this one.
No, especially from that 85 to 88 period, they were just followers for sure.
Okay. Right. Now this next one, I think we've actually changed order a little bit, but it doesn't matter. It's still working.
Okay.
It's still working. So now, this is an album I would have said before I started collecting vinyl again, from my memory of Saxon from the 80s, and I didn't have it originally in the 80s. So this is 1984, their sixth album. I had this fairly high up I would have had this fairly high up in my rankings. But when I actually bought it again and listened to it and had a physical copy, I was a little disappointed with it. I just found it. I think it's just got a lot of filler on it. I love the cover. Maybe that's why I had such good memories of it. I think the cover's fantastic. But Crusader, the title track to me, is by far the best song on it. And then I struggled to find really a second song. I would actually say that the Sweet cover, Set Me Free, is really high up there. And the fact that there's a cover song, which I think is one of the better songs on the album, probably that speaks volumes to me. But I don't really want to choose a cover song and say it's the second best Saxon album or song for me. So I'm going to go with Run for Your Lives, the last song on the album. But yeah, and it's not this week when I was listening back that I've suddenly realised this. I realised this quite soon after I bought it, that it just didn't. I don't know. My memories of it were I held it up in far higher than it really is. It's a strange one, really. And I don't know. Maybe I did enjoy it in the 80s when I had it on just dub tape, but something has changed, and it's not as high as I thought it would be.
No, I agree. Actually, if you went back and watched my original Saxon ranking, that is exactly the point I made. I feel like it's an overrated album. It's overrated. I think it's heavily based, or people are convinced because of that title track, that epic song, that's the one that sticks out to me. This was my true introduction to Saxon, and Ed, that was my true introduction to Saxon. So that was what, 80, 84. But I have a reissue, and I have an original Canadian pressing, and the track listings are different. I don't know if you knew that.
Nope.
The track listings, they mess with actually 3 of these albums, and I'll go as we. I don't know if anybody can see that from here. Probably not. Okay, so you hold up your UK track listing. I'm going to hold you up here's the Canadian track listing.
I've got lights. It's going to be difficult to see.
So you know what? This one, the North American track listing starts off with Sailing to America.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh. So Crusader, the Crusader Prelude and Crusader is not until side 2. It's the opener.
Wow. Sailing to America is not a very exciting opener.
No, album. It's shit. And here, I'm going to take this out of here because
that's another way of saying not very exciting.
No.
Yes.
Can you see that? Can you see that better now? Just wait. Can you see that?
Oh no, I can. Yeah, I can see. So you've actually got, yeah. So I've got so the Prelude, Crusader, a little bit of What You Fancy,
then Sailing to America.
Yeah, then Sailing to America, then Set Me Free.
I have that copy too. I have the actual.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So what's so side 2 for me is Just Let Me Rock, Bad Boys, Do It All for You, Rock City, and Run for Your Lives. What's the running on the alternative version then?
The Crusader Prelude, Crusader, a little bit of What You Fancy, Rock City, and Run for Your Lives.
Okay. I wonder why they did that. That's
no, they messed up on a couple. There's a couple yet that we got to talk about too, but I should point out my favorite songs, I guess, before we and I will tell you right now, the UK track listing is the better one by far, and that's the one I know in my head better. Originally, I had the original one on cassette to begin with, and I like the UK track listing better, and I would go with the title track, Crusader. I love it. That's the one the first video, the first song I ever heard back in the day, and then Just Let Me Rock. That would be my second choice for favorite 2 tracks off of this album. Because again, I feel like this album is overrated. It doesn't have a lot to offer. The one thing it does have is nice cover artwork, and I think that's part of the appeal. But song wise, it's not strong.
Yeah, I agree. I have I do not understand why I held it. You said it was overrated, and I certainly overrated it, and and I have no memories as to why that was the case. Maybe it was just the cover and Crusader, who knows. Right, do you want to take us to 1983?
I do. Power in the Glory, 1980. Now I do have a reissue, but I have two original. I have two OGs of Power in the Glory. And what do I need those for? Well, this is just another one of those cases where the North American release. I'm gonna show you because you're maybe you don't know this Canadian one because this is very odd. And the UK track listing has one of my favorite songs, which I'll name right now, Midas Touch. But in North America, I don't know. Somebody out there in the comments or whoever's watching can correct me if I'm wrong. But in North America, there is a tire shop called Midas. And I believe there was some sort of conflict between the Midas Touch was part of their jingle of their tire shop. And it's a big chain called Midas Muffler, I think they're called. And they give you the Midas Touch. So they eliminated Midas Touch off of this track. Here is the Canadian. If you can see that, Andy, there is a track listing without Midas Touch, and they added in Susie Hold On, which is a track from I forget exactly which album it's on. We'll get to it, but that's the track listing for the North American.
And they changed the order. They didn't just switch out the track. Is that down to the length? Do you think that they had to rejig the order, or that's not long? It's not a long album.
Well, I don't know because I mean, the Crusader, they totally fucked that one up too. So, but to take out one of my favorite songs, which is Midas Touch, if you know this album, I love that track. And my second choice on this album would be that's Flip to Flop. I would go with Warrior. I think that's a great track too. But so originally on my Canadian pressing, my favorite song wasn't even on it, Midas Touch.
I can see why that would be a disappointment.
Yeah, great song.
So what was your other one? Midas Touch and
Warrior.
Ah, yeah, Warrior was I had as well, but also Power and the Glory. I thought that was nice, uplifting, catchy track, great opener. This is Nigel Glocker's first album as well, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Yeah, good point.
And what do you think about the S?
It annoys me.
I thought it might.
It looks backwards, but. Yeah, I don't know what they were after there because almost in the middle, it looks like the Batman logo.
Yeah, actually, old Rocket there. I do like Redline. It's it's another topic that Biff likes to sing about is his motorbikes, isn't it? And that sounds like an old. Even though this is 1983, that sounds like a good old school Saxon song.
Absolutely.
So, I'm up next. Just put that one away. Now, this is a classic. We're into the classic years now. I'm sure you'll agree. 1981, fourth studio album, Denim and Leather. This is what I didn't have to listen to this one this week. There's the motorbikes. It's just hard to actually pick out just two. I've picked three, but I could quite easily pick more. So, and the band plays on. I've picked for three. I just love hearing that song. Again, it's songs about rocking, but this is when Saxon were at their, I don't want to say they were at their peak because they've had different at the peak in the 80s certainly, and they were on the crest of the wave. Never Surrender, absolute really catchy song. But the number one has to be Denim and Leather. It has. It's the anthem. They often play that one as the end track at the end of the gigs anyway, because everybody's expecting it. There's so many good tracks on this album.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, and I got to correct myself because I said that Crusader was my introduction, but actually the song Denim and Leather was the first Saxon song I ever heard, or video that I watched on Canada's Much Music. And then I guess Crusader was my first official new release type of thing, but totally agree with you. This is right into that. Well, we got a couple other albums coming, so we'll kind of talk about that too, but just classics. And I would say, what is there, 9 tracks on here? You could easily take almost all of these 9 tracks and put them above some of the full albums that we've already shown, because to me, it really is that hard to pick out these tracks. I'll pick 3 then too. I'm definitely going with Denim and Leather. I think it's an anthem, and I just love that song. And Princess of the Night, the leadoff track, is awesome. Love that track. And I would say I would go same as you, and the band plays on. I just think that's an epic song. It's I don't know.
I've got it played in my head as you say that. I've got it played in my head, and
and those are those albums. Yeah, this is an album, like you said. You didn't even listen to this one because you can just play it in your head. You can just think about the song. I mean, even the song "Play It Loud," I can hear that riff right now. It just, it's fantastic. And this is no, Nigel Glockler is not. Who's on drums at this time? Pete Gill.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Pete Gill's on drums, and I mean, Pete Gill's an awesome drummer. He went to he left Saxon to join Motorhead, and then Nigel came in on. Yeah, Nigel came in 1983 on the next album, but still, you got Paul Quinn, Graham Oliver, you got Dobby or Steve Dawson on bass, and and the one thing that you look at this back cover, you don't see. Oh, is this really a metal band? Like, these guys are all balding and they're wearing kind of shit clothes and sitting on motorbikes, but I love them.
They don't look like Armored Saint, do they? They do the same pose. Armored Saint look more metal when they did the same pose, but
yeah, they kind of look more like Armored Saint do now. So without hair. So yeah, what a classic album. And yeah, one of my very favorite Saxon albums, and probably will stay that way forever, I would say.
Yeah. So I totally forgot about this. So there's inside my my copy has got the original merch sheet that's talking about the tour that they were going on at the moment. Tickets were £4, which is like, obviously you're not going to get that. But if you present this voucher, you get £1 off ticket price.
I don't know what I have in mind. No, I don't have that. This is an OG copy too, but I don't have. There's nothing in this one.
Yeah, T-shirts for £4, whereas they were nearer 40 when I went to see them a couple of weeks ago. That's inflation for you.
Yeah.
But, fantastic, and the proper logo as well on the on the cover.
Yeah, I love that cover. I love the. It's simple but to the point, very effective. So where are we now? Wheels of Steel?
Or is it? So Wheels of Steel came out in May. These both came out the same year. Strong Arm came out in November.
Okay. So Strong Arm's next. Okay. Yeah. So very cool. We got 2 albums that actually, if you include Wheels of Steel, Strong Arm of the Law, and Denim and Leather, you have what I personally call the trifecta, and they're from the release of one to the last one, 16 months. That is unheard of to me. I think you have the 3 of the best albums in a row, I would say that would be for me. And 16 months apart. Can you believe that? Unreal. So Strong Arm of the Law, I'm on that one, right?
Yeah.
So this is a Canadian pressing. Are you familiar with the black cover?
I am, but not until I started watching VC videos. I was like, "What the is?"
Yeah,
I thought it was a bootleg or something that I was seeing.
There's the original cover, and then all right, so totally different track listing also on this one.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
I did not know that. I knew the black cover. I did not know it was a different track listing.
Okay, this one is gonna probably unnerve you big time.
This is going to really upset me.
Yeah, because I know how you feel about track listings about that Flotsam and Jetsam album that pissed you off, and
even Iron Maiden albums.
The Total Eclipse, yeah,
and Sanctuary on the Maiden album too. So
this is an original Canadian pressing, but here is the track listing. You are gonna shit.
What? Have they done it in reverse? Dallas 1 p.m. first, Strong Arm second, Sixth Form Girls. That's almost like they had random play before random play was invented. That's totally why? God damn it, why?
Well, and I love the UK track listing better anyways. Any album that starts off with Heavy Metal Thunder is a winner, and that is my first number one choice for songs.
No surprise to me, anyway.
And there's so much to choose from. I mean, we already mentioned Dallas 1 p.m., but I'm gonna go with we'll call this a deep track. Taking Your Chances. I love it. Love that track.
I was not expecting that one.
Yeah, actually, when you were we were chatting last night, I had that song on the headphones in between texting you back and forth. Taking Your Chances. The riff is awesome. It's just I'm gonna throw into on these period of these three albums, the production to me is just perfect. It's all you need. There's nothing over the top. It's just basic, really good production. You can hear every instrument. Biff's vocals are great, but yeah, I believe that you're going to agree on Heavy Metal Thunder, but Taking My Chances is my second pick. And yeah, I don't mind the black cover, but I still like the good old white one. But
is it a gatefold?
No, it's not. It's a single, same thing, and just that totally bizarre track listing. And I think
is the white one a gatefold?
The white one is mine a gatefold? Yeah, it actually is. Yeah, is the original? Do you have original white one gatefold? Yeah, that's what mine is. But this the black version is not a gatefold, and it is a Canadian pressing. So cool.
Yeah, I have seen the black one, but I had no idea it was a. I wonder because the US one's also black. I wonder if that's
same thing.
Is that the same order?
Yeah, same track. It's basically the North American version. Right. Yeah, so if you don't have this, I will keep my eye out. If I see a second one of this, I'll pick it up for you.
Whereas I would love to have it, I almost wouldn't be able to sleep knowing that there was a Strong Arm on the Law in the house with the wrong track order. I would be at odds with myself. But this,
so what are you picking?
This is so this week I think I've done enough research to potentially do a Saxon ranking. And whereas I would hate to give away the order, I think I'm going to leave it for quite a few months so people forget that this is actually probably going to be near the top, if not the number one. I love this album. I just about everything. Maybe only Sixth Form Girls I think is a bit lame, but the rest of it. So Heavy Metal Thunder, you called it, absolutely brilliant track. But actually, my favorite track on here, I love 20,000 Feet. I love. I just love the lyrics to it. I think it's just a great song. It's really catchy. Music's fantastic, and it's just a great story to the lyrics. But to Hell and Back Again, and the Strong Arm of the Law, again, it's playing in my head at the moment. Stop, get out. Oh,
Yeah.
just it's a fantastic song. Take Your Chances, yeah, great song. Hungry Years, Sixth Form Girls, maybe the weaker ones of it. And Dallas 1 p.m. Again, it's great storytelling from Biff.
Yeah,
In fact,
totally.
I read that he said he did a lot of research for that one because there not two theories that there was one shot or there was three shots, and he was making sure that he was putting in the right number to so he wouldn't get caught between the conspiracy theorists and what was the true story. But yeah, brilliant gatefold, lots of fantastic songs. Pictures, sorry, on there. Sorry, I kind of get distracted sometimes when I start reading the comments and trying to think about what I'm going to say and listening to you as well. That's three things I've got to do, and it's I struggle to do one thing at a time. So totally agree, Rod.
You're doing fine.
So yes, one of my favorites, and when it was, again, I didn't own this one on a physical copy until I started picking up vinyl stuff 8 or 9 years ago now, and this was one of the first that I went out and tried to source and find because I had to have it. But the first Saxon album I owned, and this is my original. Okay, so this is also 1980, but I didn't hear any Saxon. I was 9 in 1980. I had no idea who Saxon were, but this is a Fame reissue. I believe it probably came out in around 1985, and that's when I picked this up. And believe it or not, when I first heard it, because I was just getting into metal at the time, I thought it was just a little bit subdued, and it wasn't the same sort of vibrancy that I was hearing from the likes of Iron Maiden and other bands, and I didn't appreciate it at all. I love it now, don't get me wrong. I'm not going to go down that route of like, oh, this is a terrible album, but it was one that didn't click with me back then when I was a kid, and definitely. And I think Saxon is a little bit like that. I think it probably, certainly with a lot of the lyrical content and the things that they're covering, probably is a bit of a older man metal to some degree. But yeah, Wheels of Steel, the first album they released in 19. It seems funny that 2 albums in a year, you just wouldn't get that these days. Again, everything on here is fantastic. Picking 2 is hard.
Agreed.
But Wheels of Steel, I would choose as my second choice. Again, and I think part of that is because it's such a classic song. I've heard it so many times, and it's one of those songs. As soon as I say Wheels of Steel, it's playing in my head. But the song for me, and again, because of the story, and I love how the atmosphere builds up. 747 Strangers in the Night is my favorite song off the album, and there are other great ones on here, but I'll talk about those ones when. Let's hear your 2 first, though.
Okay. I gotta say too, if anybody has never heard this live album, The Eagle Has Landed is one of my favorite all-time live albums. And why I'm mentioning it right now is because you mentioned the song 747 Strangers in the Night. The live version of that is unreal. Unbelievable. This whole album's unbelievable, live album, but 747 on this album is killer. Okay, I'm gonna go with and like you said, it is really tough to pick 2 songs off here, but I love Motorcycle Man. That is one of my favorite tracks, and I don't remember. I don't remember. I don't know if you remember a few years back when Biff got up and sang that with Metallica, because a lot of people don't know that. Well, I wouldn't say a lot of people, but Saxon was a huge influence on Metallica, also amongst lots of others, and but that's pretty cool footage. If you've never seen Biff get up and sing Motorcycle Man with Metallica and trading off with James, it's pretty cool. But I've always loved that track. I could easily pick 747, great track, Wheels of Steel, but I'm going to go with the deep cut, and it is called See the Light Shining. I love that song.
Yeah.
There is a there's a breakdown in that song about halfway through, around the 2 minute 40-second mark, that is absolutely awesome. I don't know, it just gets you hyped up. It's one of those get you pumped up songs. I love it. And so and here's the album that they the song Susie Hold On, which they threw on the Canadian pressing of Power and the Glory. So that's where that song originally was from, and why they chose that to throw on instead of Midas Touch as the replacement, I have no idea, but not a bad song either.
So
but it's a slow song.
Susie Hold On, was that on the US Wheels of Steel?
That
So,
I don't have. I don't have an original of that.
All right, I'm just wondering why they put that song on. If it had already been on an album previously, why they?
Yeah, and I think it was. I don't know why they picked it. I have no idea. I'd have to really research that one, but yeah, definitely Motorcycle Man, and kind of a deep track. See the Light Shining, great track, one of my favorites. But like you said, this whole damn album is my favorite. So one of my favorites. So tough to pick. But you know, we kind of touched on that too. But 3 albums like this in 16 months. Yeah, these aren't hour-long albums by any means. They mostly range from 35 to 38 minutes, which is perfect. I love it. That's the appeal for me. That's why I could throw these albums on anytime, and it's just like, wow, it's over. Okay, next. It's over. Wow, next. You know, that you just burn through them, whereas you're trying to sit through a modern day Iron Maiden album, which there's nothing wrong with it, but they're long.
You got to make time.
Yeah.
Because you see at the moment I've got this is Scandinavian 101. For God's sake, get your ground lights on. It's just goosebumps down my back as I think about it.
Absolutely awesome. Yeah. And like I said, if you've never checked out that live album, it is one of the best live albums ever made.
Yeah. One of the best single disc live albums.
Yes, that's true.
Imagine this was a double. They had enough stuff in here now to at the time to make it a double, and they were only 3 or 4 albums in, weren't they? Then 81, this wasn't it? 82.
Yeah, and
I think it was recorded in 81, but it came out in 82.
Yeah. I was always curious though of why Denim and Leather wasn't on there. You know what I mean? It's like it should have belonged on there, but it's not on there.
Actually, yeah. But then every song on here is an absolute banger.
Oh yeah, yeah, awesome. Yeah, top to bottom. Yeah, good point too. Single live album, because that easily could have been a double, and I would have loved it too. But who's up next on the last one?
Right. You can, as you're the guest, you take up the final album of the. We've done well to go through 22 albums so far.
Yeah, and here is their debut album, 1979, Saxon. You know, the cover artwork says it all, I guess, for the name. But I'll be honest with you, this was one of the tougher ones, actually. This was maybe not as tough as some of that 2000 stuff, but I would say they definitely never found their sound until Wheels of Steel, and but you could hear it on here. But if I had to pick 2, which I do, my favorite track on here is called Still Fit to Boogie. Love that track. It's sounds exactly how the title sounds. Still Fit to Boogie. It's got some boogie in it, boogie hard rock, whatever you want to call it. And my second favorite song on here would be Stallions of the Highway, or it could be tied with Backs Against the Wall. So those, we'll go with 3: Still Fit to Boogie, Backs to the Wall, and Stallions of the Highway. Other than that, it's, I don't know, it's a little just okay.
Yeah, I think the sort of a live picture on the back sums it up really. It doesn't. It's this is we talked before about Saxon being a bit reactionary, and this was their quiet before the storm. I think that's a quote I read about them, and it's really them. It's their they put something out there, then all of a sudden this new wave of British heavy metal thing has come along, and the likes of Raven and Maiden are doing and not doing the boogie rock. This is a bit of a boogie rock album. It's closer to Status Quo than it is to Iron Maiden and Raven, that's for sure. But for some reason, I've ended up with 3 copies of it, and I think I'm struggling about. I know I had this one. I'm not too sure about. So this one is actually it's not in great shape. But this was sent to me by I don't know if you remember Andy Borders, Andy's vinyl den.
I do.
He sent me this a while back. So I think this is a US pressing because it's different on the back in terms of the credits and what have you. But it doesn't actually come out and say made in the US. So I've ended up with 3 copies of that, and I don't know why. But it's probably the Saxon album I would play the least. It's got a couple of good tracks on it. Stallions of the Highway, easily my favorite on there, and Backs to the Wall as well. You mentioned that one, but things like Still Fit to Boogie, Big Teaser, they're just a bit too 70s for me. I'm not a fan of that sort of style. The difference between this album and the 2 they put out in 1980s is chalk and cheese. It's all of a sudden it's almost like they went, oh God, we've got to do that. We've got to put and I don't believe it was there. I don't think it was there naturally. I don't think they would have produced those albums if the other bands around them hadn't been putting out that stuff that they were doing. I think they would have been possibly very similar, their second album, to this, or maybe they even had, because this is 79 and those other 2 albums are 80s. They must have had those other songs in mind or written, and I'm wondering whether they just changed the arrangement given the new sound that emerged.
Yeah, I don't know, because you're up against what did Judas Priest Killing Machine came out in 79.
Mm-hmm.
AC/DC Highway to Hell. That was a great album. And then you got Saxon just way out in left field, and they're like, just like you said, they probably said, holy shit, we need to change our direction immediately and kind of follow what these guys were doing. I mean, because Iron Maiden in 1980, they didn't really sound like anybody. They sounded like Iron Maiden. And but I'm glad the change came along for Saxon, because you went into that 3 album period that I would recommend to anyone to check out earlier Saxon. But yeah, you're kind of right about I love the song Still Fit to Boogie, but it's even the riff starts off boogie style, and it sounds decent to me, but definitely didn't find their sound until their second and third and fourth album.
But do you not think, though, that the amount of songs that they had ready in 1980, the 18, 19, 20 songs that they had, they must have had the ideas for those in 79 as well to be ready, and they're just so different. I can't imagine they would have thought, right, these other bands are sounding different, let's write some new songs. I'm sure they must have had those songs in mind. I'm just wondering how those songs would have sounded had those other bands not maybe influenced them. Just wondering.
Really?
Do you know what I mean? It may well be that I'm talking complete nonsense here, and they always intended them to sound like the way that they did. But it's such a seismic shift in the quality and the type of songs and the sound between the debut album and Wheels of Steel.
Yeah, because even their earliest work, they were self-produced for the most part, weren't they? I don't think they really worked with anybody until maybe Power and the Glory or Crusader. But I know what you mean though, because if you're right though, those songs would sound. I don't know if we'd be the Saxon fans we are today. If obviously, I don't think we would be, because if they would have came out with another album that was similar to the debut after that, I'd say like, oh no. But the other thing is, I'm same with you. I discovered earlier Saxon way later in my life. I wasn't grabbing Wheels of Steel off the shelf when it first came out in 1980. It was 3 to 4 years later that I really dug into Saxon, and luckily on the strength of one song, really, which was, The Crusader, the actual title track and video, that got me going back into Saxon. And then you got to right around Destiny. I would have bailed out for a couple of reasons, and that would have been because of that album and just that time in my life, and the discovering of thrash metal more in 88, before 88, but 88 was one of those thrash metal years that made me forget about albums like Destiny and say, nah, I don't need that. And, years later, I mean, an album like that for me will never come around as being good, but it definitely, what am I trying to say? Just, it was a sign of the times for sure, with the thrash. And I think you got into a lot of these other Saxon albums, like not even close to the release date too, right?
Nope. Yeah, no, absolutely. So I knew the early Saxons albums in the 80s, but really maybe over the last 8 or 9 years, a lot of these Saxon albums, I've actually come to appreciate them as a band and enjoy them a lot more now. In my senior years, or towards there, anyway. Yeah, so we did it. We managed to get through all 23 albums. And it was what's been really interesting is the fact that we both love the band, but we've both got some similarities, but also some completely different picks of albums. Ones that I'm saying is filler, you're saying are great. Others that I'm saying is great, and you're thinking, well, no, they're not great for me. It's these songs are far better to you. So it just kind of shows there's a little bit of something for everybody, I think.
Yeah, and I'm one of those guys that I will pick up anything from Saxon till the day they stop touring and putting out albums. I just look forward to their releases. I don't care if if people say some of it's samey or not, thinking metal. I don't need to think when I listen to Saxon. I don't want to think. I just want to kick back and listen to it. I don't need some mind-blowing thing. A good, decent album, which, talking to you today and over the past couple of days about Seize the Day, you know what? It's going to be up there on my 2022 list. Not blowing the doors off, but man, it's a good album. I think it's just a good, thorough album with better songs overall than some of their last couple albums. And I think I'll also, taking from this, I probably will go back to digging into a little bit more of the box set again and giving those a spin, maybe over Christmas or something. And I don't know if you're on the same page as me with I feel like I don't know if I would have tracked down all these albums without that box set. I'll tell you, I just thought that box set was very convenient to be able to grab 9 really hard albums to get. And I don't know if I'd be here with a complete vinyl discography if it wasn't for that box set. I don't know about you.
No, I absolutely. I mean, since then, I'm sure if they hadn't done that reissue, they may well have reissued some of them individually throughout, but it was a decent price to grab when I grabbed it. It wasn't an expensive for 9 albums. It wasn't an expensive box set at all. And as you say, along with the vinyl vault as well, the live albums that were put together for vinyl for the first time. There's been some good deals out there from a Saxon perspective. For a Saxon fan, just to try and grab everything. The hardest ones that I found to find were actually Call to Arms and Sacrifice. They're the ones that took the longest to actually find.
Yeah, no, and those two, I have the same reissues as you. Those were 2017. I grabbed those together because I was like, what? I didn't even know these were out. I was like, I better get them now. But if anybody out there wants that snapshot of the Eagles and Dragons box set of those 9 albums, there's a CD called Baptism of Fire. It's called The Collection from 91 to 2009. It's on the same label. It's on like Demon Music Group. And basically it takes anywhere from 3 to 4 tracks from all 9 of those albums. And you'll actually see a few of my favorites on here. They take what they think is the best tracks and put it on this compilation. It's on a sleeve. And man, when this first came out, it was super inexpensive. I think it was like $12 Canadian. And I did buy some extras and since I've handed them out through VCLT and stuff over the years. But this would give you a quick snapshot of those, what we'll call wilderness years, where a lot of us jumped off the Saxon bus. And if you don't want to, track down all those 9 albums, like I said, it gives you quite a few songs to listen to and kind of see where Saxon was going. And as far as that box set, though, I don't see them often anymore. They look like they're a little tougher to get.
It was 2016 they came out, so it's what, 6 years old now at least. So
mine says mine is number 1331. Out of what? I have no idea. Do you remember if there's 15?
I don't know, but I won 793, so there's probably at least 2,000 of them out
2,000, yeah. But yeah,
least.
so the back of this box, guys, it just shows all 9 albums and the track listings. It shows production, and the front cover artwork is awesome. It's Paul Gregory. There's the spine. I mean, if I saw another one of this for cheap, which you probably wouldn't, I would snap it up too. And
I mean, it's no frills. It's not like the creator box set where you get all these extras. It's a box with 9 albums in, but it's 9 albums, and that's what I need. That's what I need. And I don't need the books. I don't need key rings. I don't need USB sticks.
Yeah.
I wanted the albums, and it was a perfect way to grab it.
And all 9 of them have a nice inner too, a single page inner. All 9 of them. So it's not super no frills, that they don't have anti-static sleeves in them or anything like that, but they do have a nice inner, and the packaging's great. Each spine, it's numbered where you would put it in order, like 502, 503, 504, or whatever have you. It fits in the box perfect. It looks good on the shelf, and to get those 9 albums, it was good value. Anyways, I'm sure it's a little pricier now to find, but I'm like you. I don't need a bunch of extra stuff with Saxon, or I just want the 9 albums, and it was an easy way to get them.
All right. Darcy, thank you very much for joining me today. I thoroughly enjoyed actually going through that and listening to that. I might take a bit of a break from Saxon for the next few weeks or so. I think I might be I'm ready to listen to something else, but it was an absolute pleasure having you here today to chat through them and just share our love for Saxon out there.
Yeah, no, I couldn't think of a better guy to do it with. I think we're on the same page with a lot of stuff, but Saxon is definitely one of those bands that you and I have in common. We understand the band. And I think you would agree with me that we aren't looking to be blown away. We just want simple man's metal, whether you want to call it old guy metal. I am an old guy. I'm turning 54 here in a couple of weeks from now, and sometimes this old guy just likes simple.
I like simple too.
I don't mind it at all, and we'll definitely discuss some other bands. I think I'm going to be in a bit of a hell ripper mood myself here for the next little while. That might be somebody we will discuss in the future together, I'm hoping. And thanks to anybody that stopped by. We appreciate you guys. This is just like two guys hanging out at Saturday night, only that we're many miles or kilometers away from each other. But yeah, I always love that music has brought us together. We've known each other now for probably going on 4 years, and I can speak for myself. There's zero awkwardness. It's just like talking to my buddy, only I have to talk to him via Zoom call, which in some of our lives we're actually used to that kind of shit nowadays with Zoom calls and this or that or business shit or whatever you have. But I had a great time, Andy, and I got to plug in my phone. It's running low. But
Okay.
thanks for having me. Always appreciate it.
We'll close out there. Thanks everybody for tuning in. I hope you got something out of it as well, enjoyed it, and see you again soon.
All right.
Thanks all.
Thank you guys. See ya.